Thank you. I grew up in a Baptist church, and our church was the first church to integrate, and they burned it to the ground when I was a small child. And I remember that. And we used to hold revivals, and so the black and white community would get together. You know, these huge revivals, and there was a man, Dr. J. Robert Bradley, he was friends with Mahalia Jackson and did all of those old spirituals, and he would come, hold revivals, and I'd never heard anything like that before. And so later, when I started listening to blues, I thought, wow, it reconnected with that feeling that I had. And so I have a real love for gospel music. and of course for the blues as well. And when those two meet, it's a very powerful thing. And so yeah, those are my strong roots. I grew up playing piano, but my next door neighbor had a set of drums, and so I'd sneak over there and pound on the drums. And he said one day, he goes, "Kelly, why don't you take those drums home with you?" I'm like, "Oh, great," you know. So I take them home, set them up in my bedroom, and about 2 months goes by. My dad said, "Kelly, if you get rid of those drums, I'll buy you anything you want." I said, "Okay, I'll take a guitar," and that fit best of all. So I'm really glad that happened. I was always a big fan of Bonnie Raitt and Eric Clapton, and I loved their song selection, how they would look back through the archives and find those songs that moved them, and they'd take them and make them their own. And even though they also wrote some of their material, they played what moved them. And I've always really sought out many blues records and done a lot of listening and found those songs that it's like, yeah, I could really sing that. I believe that. That moves me. You know, I'm feeling it. Yeah. I got an electric guitar first. And a lot of people, especially girls, they start out on the acoustic guitar. And but I got an electric guitar. And my dad got me a little 3-watt amp. First chord I hit, it bounced across the floor. And later, a couple years later, I got my first acoustic guitar. And I played guitar for a lot of singer-songwriters and really developed a real passion for the acoustic guitar. And so I've done, at this point, not equal amounts, but there was a time when I had played equal amounts, both electric and acoustic. So my styles really kind of bleed over. I play in an acoustic a lot like I play the electric, very percussive, and they both have a special place. I really did not like school much when I was growing up. It was a great source of frustration for me. And when I got hold of an electric guitar, all of the angst and frustration that I had just came out. And then I discovered Jimi Hendrix just about 6 months into having bought a guitar, or actually having been given a guitar for Christmas. And wow, when I heard Jimi Hendrix, it changed everything. I didn't know he existed. I hadn't been exposed to any of that music. Growing up listening to gospel music and top 40 and AM radio, I didn't know any of that music existed. I wasn't familiar with the Beatles. I wasn't familiar with anything. Jimi Hendrix was one of my first exposures to music from the 60s, and it was very powerful. School for me was not very pleasurable. It was a great source of frustration. So when I started taking guitar lessons, I had an incredible instructor who really challenged me. So in my adult years, I decided, you know, teaching is something that I think I can do. And so for the past several years now, I've been developing my own teaching materials. I've put together an instruction manual, companion CD, and use that to teach workshops. And also I do some correspondence teaching with some students throughout the country, and teaching the RV as we travel around all across throughout the roads that we're on, those long roads. I guess I wanted to be a flower child, and I kind of missed that opportunity. I love the peace sign. I mean, you know, especially in a day and age like today, peace, what a concept. So our logo with the hand, I'm a guitar player, hands are very important, and then a peace sign, that just represents what I would really like to stand for. I think music is medicine, and hopefully it brings some kind of resolve and some kind of peace and harmony into people's lives. Hitting the stage with a guitar and being in front of people, oh my God, that's throughout all of the years that I've played, all of the long, crazy road trips. It's always worth it once you hit that stage and you look out and you see somebody that's traveled 6, 7, 8, 10 hours to see you play. They're excited to see you. You know, it's like, wow, it means so much. So of all of the CDs that I've done, you know, those live CDs have captured something very different than the studio CDs have. And I'm really excited about hitting the stage and bringing a little snapshot of the journey each night into their, you know, into the world, I guess, you know. Performing is not work. Getting to the gig, getting ready for the gig, getting out of the gig, getting to the next gig, that's the work. You know, so I'm just so happy when I show up and people are there and they want to hear us play. You know, it's like, thank God there was a reason for this day. Because, you know, some days are much longer than others. So yeah, it's crazy. As soon as I strap on an electric guitar, or an acoustic guitar for that matter, but as soon as I strap on a guitar, something changes. I don't know what it is. I've never known what it is. But it's almost like plugging into the universe and this huge bolt of energy just takes over. And depending on the crowd and their vibe, oh my God. I mean, I will forever, you know, be a sucker for that feeling, for that vibe, you know, it's magic. There is an attachment that I have always had for that guitar. It was the first thing that really made sense to me. And it probably saved my soul, literally. And so when I play the guitar and I know the guitar. I'm familiar with it. I've been doing it for so long. I took it to school with me. I took it to church with me. I took it, if I walked to the grocery store to get something for my mom, I had my guitar strapped on. I never took it off. This guitar I got right out of high school. And there was only one owner before me, and it was basically in a closet. So every scratch and dent has come throughout the many years that I've played. I love this guitar. I do believe that instruments hold energy. There's something magic about this guitar. Many nights it's played for me. It always meets me at least halfway. And it feels like a part of my body. And really, you know, in many ways it is. Well, I lived in Nashville back in the late 80s. I had an opportunity to play with Albert King. I was bartending at a bar called the Cuckoo's Nest. And Albert came in with his band for sound check. And I said, Mr. King, can I sit in with you tonight? He looked at me, and there were some guys from the opening act sitting there that knew me from around town, and they said, yes, you can play. He looked at me, he goes, you bring that guitar of yours down here tonight, and yeah, I'll let you play. And so I did. And I brought my amp too. And so since I worked there, I could get backstage. He had 2 sold-out shows. And I went back and I stuck my head in the dressing room. I said, Mr. King, I'm here and I've got my guitar. He said, you get in here and let me see what you got in that case. He had on a sheriff's badge and he had a pistol in his lap. And so I pulled out my guitar and, you know, it was, you know, real guitar, you know, old Strat. He goes, let me see you play that thing. So I did. And so we were sitting there talking, and it was sweet. He was sharing a lot of experiences he'd had with Stevie Ray and a lot of other artists. And they came back and they said, it's time for you to go on. And he looked at me, he goes, you going out there without me and kick off the show? I said, oh, yes, Mr. King. Yes, yes. You know, I grabbed my guitar and I started to head out the door, and he stood up. And he was taller than God. He was taller than my father. I mean, he was a big man, and he looked down at me. He goes, don't you make me ashamed. I said, no, sir, I won't. And at that point, I was scared to death. I hadn't felt any fear. You know, I didn't I didn't really realize, what a moment that was. I was young and I didn't realize. And now I look back on that moment and cherish it. It was the single most powerful moment in my career. It changed my course. I went out and bought every blues record I could get my hands on that I could afford each week at that point on, from that point on, and began to learn about the blues. I did go out and kick off the show, and then Albert came out, and he kept me up there the entire night, and he left me up there when he was done. And I learned something about the blues that night. I had a front row seat, and it was very life-changing. I've been playing and touring up and down this road for a while, and the fans that we have are priceless. I look out and night after night after night, or city after city that we've been back, for repeated performances, and there they are. Those people that come out and that support us and that send us emails and that post messages on our message boards and that spread the word and hang up flyers for us and call the radio stations and, and come out and say, we've got Kelly Richey Virgins, we're coming to the show. And a lot of people will say, I wasn't watching your show tonight, I was watching my friends that we brought out to see the show, and it just, I kind of get up there and close my eyes and play. I don't really know what's going on. A lot of times I can feel it, but I really, really appreciate the support that people have given me, not just in our fans, but in the organization of people that helped me get this thing on the road and down this road. It's really been very touching. I am very proud of where women have come in the industry today. I think everyone that has played any role in that, whether it's supporting the artist or whether it's an artist out there brave enough to try to tackle some of those issues, amen.